What's up everyone, this is B the Installer, and today I'm going to go over the best TV mounts that you can buy on Amazon and Best Buy, the ones that you shouldn't buy, so stay tuned to the end because I'm going over some things you should not buy, and also a couple of HDMI options for you for accessories. So let's get right into it. First, if you go to Amazon, you can get lost right off the bat. You just type in TV mount, there's 8 billion different TV mounts to get. So how do you know which one to get? For most people, right off the bat, I have a really good TV mount that I've used often, and it fits almost all kinds of TVs, anything from like 30-inch TVs all the way up to 65-inch TVs. So for most of you, this one's going to be good. And this is the Pippy Shell TV wall mount, 26 to 65-inch. The reason that I like this mount is because it sits pretty tight to the wall. It's about 3 inches away from the wall total when you push it back flat. And it has up to a 400 by 400 millimeter VISA pattern. So you can fit it to almost all the TVs that are 65-inch and under, and it extends out and turns left or right. So if you don't need those things, if you just want a flat mount, hold on, I have more of them. But this mount typically fits the bill for most people that want to pull it out and turn it if it's a guest room, a family room, pretty much anywhere. And also, one of the things that I really like about this is that it has this back plate that's longer than just a single stud mount. So the back plate being longer back here gives you the opportunity to put it on one stud in the middle and a couple toggle bolts on the top, or you can fit it on 2 studs. Or if it's one stud on one side and a couple toggle bolts on the other side, I'm pretty comfortable with this mount because it has all that room to get at least one stud in the middle and also 2 studs. Or if you're buying this overseas or in an area where you have stone walls, this also works in those kind of applications as well. And it does have the ability to tip forward and back and also self-level, as you can see in this picture here. So you can level it easy and you can tilt it forward. So it kind of gives you the most freedom and best bang for the buck. And it's only $39.99. So this is one of the best mounts you can buy for almost all TVs. And if you're looking for a single stud mount, one that you could put more in the corner of a room, then I also have this one from Pearlsmith. I've used this so many times. I would probably not use this for most 55 or 65-inch TVs. I personally think this is better for the 43-inch, the 32-inch. Even if you have a 48-inch TV, cool. You could fit a 55-inch on this, but it's kind of made for a little bit lighter of a TV. And once you start pulling on an arm that's a single stud like this, it's just not quite as sturdy as the one I had just shown you. But the benefit is you can stick this in a corner really easily because, you know, with a single arm, you have more movement. The dual arm that I just showed you a bit ago, you can only turn it so far. This one, you can literally turn it 90 degrees. So if you're sticking it in the corner or if you're pulling it out and turning it perpendicular, I like this. It also comes with this $3 off coupon. And the reason I like this one specifically versus some of the other ones is because it has the ability to do the 200 by 200 millimeter VISA pattern in the middle, even 75, 100, and 200. And then it has 300 by 300 and 400 by 400 with the additional wings here. So if you add those on there, it's a really useful mount. It can get a lot of different sizes. And again, 55-inch or lower is what I would recommend this for. And even 48 and lower is really what it's best for. When it comes to flat mounts, there's a couple things to think about. First, you can get a flat mount like this, which is just one piece of metal that's only 16 inches long and 2 vertical brackets that are 16 inches long as well. Very straightforward, very inexpensive, $21.99. Really good deal, right? The only downside to this is that these bars will tilt forward a little bit if you put too heavy of a load on them, and they're kind of difficult to push perfectly flat. So if you want the tilt and you're going for like a 65-inch or below and you just like, you're good with the little tilt, you can get them tight, so you can get it pretty much vertical. And you want something pretty flat that allows you to tilt a little bit. This Pearlsmith one is a really good opportunity. I probably bought hundreds of these mounts before. So $21.99, really good. I don't know why they have a white one, but there you go. If you want a white TV mount hiding behind your TV, you can get it in white as well. But yeah, they're very strong. It's very easy to level this. Having the bolts close together, there's just a lot of positives about this. Very straightforward, very easy. It says 23 to 60, but really again, the 400 by 400 millimeter VISA pattern with the weight of 115 is most important. And again, you can mount this with one stud or even no studs if you know what you're doing with toggle bolts, but obviously it's better to have a stud in there or 2. You can fit, if they're 16 inches, you can fit 1 on each side, but that's the downside of a mount like this is that it's only 16 inches long. So if your studs are irregularly placed out at 24 or, you know, it's randomly 20-inch or whatever it may be, this one may not work as good for you. On the other hand, this Pippy Shell one has an extension here. So you still have that 16-inch bracket on the left there, but then they have the extra 8-inch there where you can add it on. So this one goes as wide as 24-inch, and that can be useful if the studs are not placed right where you want to put this TV and you're like, okay, only one stud will hit, but I want to hit 2 studs. Then now this one's 24-inch and you can slide it left or right. Again, you have the 16-inch tall bracket, so you can fit most TVs. It's really an odd TV that doesn't fit 600 by 400 millimeter VESA pattern. So as long as you're under the 132-pound limit here, you can pretty much mount anything, even up to an 85-inch TV. Again, if you get an 85-inch TV, or especially an OLED, something that has the bracket holes down toward the bottom, you're going to have a lot of weight pushing forward and wanting to tilt the TV, and you may not be able to tighten those nuts on the sides enough to get this to stay flat, and so it might just creep forward on you a little bit, and that's the only downside of having a tilting one, and I'm going to show you a flush one in a second. But I really like this because it comes in the box and you can just put the 2 pieces together, screw them together, and then slap it up on the wall, and it again fits 24-inch studs, and then you can mount it very easily. It has a little pull tabs at the bottom, has a little, level, but it's kind of not that good of a level, and then a couple zip ties. So overall, this mount will work for most applications, and I bought thousands of these as well. And if you want just a flat mount where it doesn't have the tilt, some of my clients will say, I want a flat mount. And then that day I only had ones that tilted forward, and I'd put it on and they'd stick a little bit out further from the wall than they wanted. These flat ones like this are really flush to the wall, and there's a positive and a downside. The positive is you get it tight and it looks clean. However, the downside is if you have stuff behind there like HDMI cords, or you have a power outlet that's not recessed, you're going to have limitations that are due to the TV and the cords in that, and not the mount itself. So what's the point of having a really flush mount if you can't fit the stuff behind it anyway? And in some instances, you'll have to put on spacers to get it out further from the wall. So if you just want a perfectly flush mount, this is the one to get, only $29.99. There's even a 10% off code. And again, all these will be in the description below, so you'll find the links to all these, but just make sure your TV can fit with the mount you're choosing, and you should be good to go, because all the ones I put down there are going to be good. And there's a couple that I'm going to not put down there, but I'm going to warn you about. And one of them is like this Pearl Gear one right here. Anything that says studless TV wall mount for most TVs, I personally would shy away from them. Now, some people might like this. You just stick little nails all the way across the top that dig into the drywall. And technically, if you think about how this is being designed, it should do the trick, but there's a couple issues. One, those little clips on the top here that hold on to the top bolt on your TV. There's a lot of pressure on those, and you have these little knobs that just go into the bottom one to secure it against the wall. However, it's a little difficult to get these little loops off, so if you're trying to lift the TV off, it's really hard to get your hands in there. And that's not even to mention that I don't really like the idea of just putting little nails into the wall or screws or whatever they have here. I really think that it's better to just buy a mount that has top holes and bottom holes and gives you a nice secure hold against the wall, like this Pearl Smith one that I was showing you. I'm just much more comfortable with that. I think most people that install TVs would tell you that, this is not a great way to go. And it's $20. The other one's only 30. So anything that just says stick little nails in the wall and it's going to leverage the drywall, I'm not a big fan of. I want to know that something like a toggle bolt goes through the drywall and is grabbing onto the back of it. So this is not something that I would buy. And if you want a couple bigger mounts for bigger TVs, specifically ARM ones, I've had good luck with this Eco Gear one. It's very large. It has that same 24-inch plate on the back here, so you can fit studs on the sides. The only problem is in the middle, there's no holes. So I've had to drill holes a couple of times through this plate to get a center stud. And then I just put toggle bolts around the outside, and it's plenty strong. Again, make sure you know what you're doing if you're going to put these up. I'm not responsible for your mistakes, but you can put 2 studs, 1 stud, toggle bolts, but you got your weight limits. You got your 600 by 400 millimeter VESA pattern again, $109, $10 off coupon. So that makes it $99. I think that's what I used to pay for these. Very good TV mount for most TVs. And people always ask me, what's the mount I would use for the 98-inch TVs? And this is the one right here. Human-centric, full motion articulating wall mount, $149 for this massive mount. The background plate is not that big. I believe it does fit 16-inch studs, and it maybe goes out to about 18 inches wide, but it's a very strong arm, and you can literally just hang off the end of it. And it has this really big VESA pattern that's 900 by 600. So the TCL 98-inch TVs, they have a 850 wide pattern, and this goes up to 900. So you're gonna be able to get even the biggest TV VESA pattern on this, and then vertically it's 600 millimeters, and I think that's like 400 or 450 or something like that. So this will be the mount that you'd wanna use for the 98-inch TVs. very strong, turns left and right, very fluid motion up and down. And I have used this multiple times and very comfortable with it. And now if you're going to Best Buy for one or two reasons, one, maybe you're just in a hurry and you need something sooner, or two, you want something that's got the brand name, you're comfortable with it, maybe like a Sanus mount. There are similar issues and similar benefits on Best Buy. Some of these are not available in the store anyway, so you have to like wait a day or two, so leads you back to Amazon. But there are a couple like this Sanus one. Now this is the Big Daddy mount from Sanus. It's a great mount. $350 is a lot to pay for it, but I've used it before. I like it, and I think, you know, if you're going to go into the store and you're going to buy a big mount, this is probably one of the mounts that you'd likely buy for a larger TV, and it fits up to 90 inch, so it's a pretty big TV. On the other hand, this rocket fish mount, I've used this a bunch, and I like that you can just put on these two horizontal plates in the back of your TV, screw the vertical plate in, and it just sits right on this arm. So for most people, this one is sufficient because it goes up to 75 inch, and I think it can hold up to 100 pounds. So for most TVs nowadays, this would be just fine. And I have a very similar mount to this for our 83 inch OLED that we were using. So I'm very comfortable. I like this mount. It has the, you know, the nice cord management along the back, and it has an area where you can put a power outlet in here or out in the side. So I like this rocket fish one. Now I would definitely stay away from this mount. This is the Sanus Premium Super Slim Full Motion mount. Just visualize this and don't buy it, because these square plates here, when you push them flat, it has very bad motion. It just, when you push it back, it always jams up, and it always seems to tilt forward, and the tilt knob is tiny. So you have a hard time getting your fingers in there to make it tilt. I'm not a big fan of this mount. It doesn't turn very much left or right either. So when it comes to a brand name mount, I don't know why they still design this mount, because I absolutely hate it, and I don't like installing it for customers. Just stay away from this mount. I just recommend it. Not a big fan of that TV mount. And then we have a very basic mount. It says Best Buy Essentials. This one works for, you know, a very wide range of TVs, 37 up to 90, because it has a 600 millimeter wide pattern and it has 400 millimeter vertically. So that means you could connect it to two studs up to 24 inches apart, and it works for most TVs. Very straightforward, will work. If they have it in stock, fantastic. But it's very similar to that Pearlsmith one that I showed you, except that's not quite as wide. But I like this mount, no problem. However, I would not buy this Sanus Elite Super Slim Fixed mount for a couple of reasons. One, it's too tight to the wall. If you have anything behind the TV, even like HDMI cords, they're going to jam this mount up, because the bottom of your TV is going to push away from the wall, while this is trying to suck super tight to the wall here. So I don't like it for that reason. And two, once you get this on and flat, it's very difficult to get this off the wall. You have to pull down these tabs there's no room for your hands behind the TV, and then you have to lift it off the top. So very difficult mount to use. Some people really like a tight fit, but I don't think you're getting much more of a tight fit than something like one of these flat mounts here. So that one might stick off the wall like a ½ inch, and this one might be 3/4 of an inch, but there's just, you know, 3/4 of an inch, you can get your hands back there. It's a little bit better. So I really don't like using that Sanus one. I've had to, you know, take TVs off the wall that have been there for 5 years, and it's very difficult to get them off the wall. So I would steer clear of that. Plus it's $100, and the one that I just showed you here was 30 bucks. These do the exact same thing. So why would you spend an extra $60 buying the Sanus one when the Best Buy Essentials one is 29 bucks? And there's also a rocket fish tilting mount. I do recommend this if you're in a pinch, because the knobs on this are stronger, so you can like crank these down and hold it and lock it in position. So if you want the tilt, this does have that, you know, 600 millimeter wide pattern, so you could go two studs up to 24 inches, and it has the 400 vertically, so it fits most TVs as well. Much stronger than most generic mounts. So I like this tilt mount. I'm good with it. But again, if we go back to Amazon, you have, you know, this one from Pippy Shell here that's, you know, 32 bucks. And I think that this one is just fine. So, you know, if you're in a pinch, go ahead and buy the $89 rocket fish one. But, you know, if you have a second, you can order the Pippy Shell one. You're going to save yourself 50 some dollars. And I don't really see any difference between these two. In fact, this one can hold 132 pounds, and I think it's just fine. And then the same thing goes for this Best Buy Essential Full Motion mount. If you look at this, it looks very similar to another one that I showed you. This is $60. So if you're in a pinch, you got to go to a store, go ahead. It looks like it's pick up within 1 hour in one of the stores near us, so that's good. But again, $39, save $20 by buying the Pippy Shell one that looks almost exactly the same, has all the same functions. And so, again, it just depends on what you guys need, how soon you need it, and all that. And lastly, HDMI cords. So for HDMI cords, for me, it's not really about which brand you buy. A lot of these are going to be very similar to each other, but it's more about what features they have. So you really want to make sure whatever cable you're going to get is HDMI 2.1 capable and has the 48 gigabits per second speed, because that's what's going to give you your 4K at 120 and make sure that it can do all the things that HDMI cords should be doing now and for the next many years. So if you can see, it says 8K 60, 4K at 120, 144 hertz. Make sure the cords that you select have all these features on them. You also would like to get them that are braided, or if they're in-wall rated, it would be useful. In general, they're just stronger cords. Sometimes you want to buy the skinnier cords if they're going to be external to the wall and you want them to be, cleaner looking and you want to be able to like tie them up. Then you can buy cords that are a little bit slimmer. But really, I go for the ones that are braided, have good reviews, have the 4K 120 or 8K 60 abilities. A lot of these other things like HDCP 2.2 and 2.3, of course, they're going to work for ARC and eARC. And the number one thing that I would recommend is get the cord a little bit longer than you think. If you're going to put it inside the wall, you must start out at 10 feet. Don't buy a 6-foot or an 8-foot cord to go in the wall, because you have to go in the wall from your device, up the wall, back out, and normally down the side of a TV and then back up to connect to it, right? So you have to think about that when you're going to do an installation. Make sure you get 10 or 15-foot cords so that it'll work for your installation. Otherwise, you're going to put them in the wall and then you're going to have to buy longer cords anyways. And one of the companies that I had worked with for a long time is Monoprice. So if you want an HDMI cord that is of good quality, they stand behind it. Normally, Monoprice, these 8K braided would be really good for you. They are $30 per. So for 15 feet, it's not the end of the world. You go into a store, you're going to pay $100 for a cord like that. So I'd recommend those. And they have various different ones, 8K HDR, anywhere from $10 to $100. So a lot of different options for Monoprice. It's a company that I trust and I've used for a long time. And remember, all these links are going to be in the description below, along with our TV quiz. If you're looking for a new TV and you're not exactly sure which one to get, go ahead and take the TV quiz on our website. You can go through and decide whether or not you're going to have a bright or a dark room, what kind of content you're going to be watching, how far you're going to be sitting away, and if you have any brand preference and what kind of budget you're going to be working with. You can enter all those different things in. And then once you have all that information in, it's going to kick out a few different TV options for you. There'll be one at the top, and then it'll give you a few more down below, all these in the mid-range budget size. So definitely check out the TV quiz, check out the links in the descriptions, and we'll see you guys on the next video.